Back. We got GEP Talk episode 7. We're with special guest today, Sam Bacino. Sam, how you doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing real good. So, Sam, for the people who don't really know you, please tell them a little something about yourself.
Uh, uh, I went to school, college at Toledo in Ohio for 2 years, played ball there. And then I ended up at Lewis for my last 2 years, finished off there.
Gotcha.
So
We'll get right into it. So, if you don't mind, can you tell the people how old you are and where you're from?
I'm from Rockford, Illinois. That's where I was born and raised.
Rockville,
Um,
Illinois.
yeah. And then I moved out to the south suburb right after college. I'm 41 now, so
Gotcha.
just turned 41 the other day.
Okay. And today on GEP Talk, Sam, we're going to be talking about a little of your basketball experience and a new topic that never been discussed on GEP Talk. And we're going to be talking about some carp fishing. And so later in the episode, everyone stay tuned for that. But first, so now we're going to get in the basketball side, Sam. So, Sam,
Right.
what got you started in basketball?
Well, I mean, I started as a little kid. My dad was actually like a building engineer, like a maintenance guy,
Okay.
and he used to have to go check the building every weekend, and he would work late and stuff. And I went to that school where he worked at, so he had access to a gym, and my dad was like really into basketball. So when I was 4 and 5 years old, I was on the court doing drills, like little cones, dribbling back and forth. And I got on my first team at the boys club when I was 5, and it started from there. I was tearing it up when I was 5. Um, he's actually got film of it too, but that's how I got started into basketball.
Okay, absolutely. That makes sense too, because my mom, who you know, worked at a school, but she worked at a little elementary school when we were younger too. So the day before school started, me and my brothers had all access to the gym. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
went completely out of control, 1v1s, like you wouldn't believe how much we were in there. So I understand where you come from. And so did you play any of the sports growing up, or was it just basketball?
Yeah, I played baseball for many years. And then when I got to high school, it was basically basketball and track.
Okay.
So
So now you mentioned that. What high school did you go to, and can you tell me a little bit about your high school basketball experience?
I went to Rockford East,
Okay,
one of the high schools in Rockford. I think there's 9 now. One of the public high schools in Rockford. Um, and in high school, my freshman year, I played sophomore. They moved me up to play sophomore ball, and we did pretty good that year. We actually had a really good record. And then starting my sophomore year, I went up and played varsity. So I played varsity for 3 years. Um, and we had a real good season, especially my senior year. We made it to the sectional semifinals, I think is where we made it to. We lost to Rockford Boylan, who, um, around here, a lot of people know who Rockford Boylan is because they a lot of times made it downstate and stuff like that. But I played them all 4 years and never beat them once. They were always stacked, but that's how it goes, man.
gotcha. Yeah, there's always that one team that you're gonna run into that just got your team's number, no matter how hard you play.
Yeah.
So so you said you had a good high school career. So what type of like player like were you in high school? Like were you catch and shoot, come off the pick, knock down the shot, or
I was a combo guard. I could play. My favorite was point guard, but I was able to score pretty well. I averaged like 20 points a game my senior year.
gotcha.
So I played the 1 and the 2, and sometimes the 3 as well. So yeah, I was a slasher, and I wasn't a great shooter in high school. So more drive to the basket, setting people up. I I think by the end of my senior year, I was second in scoring in my high school, and I was first in assist all time in high school. So I don't know if those records still stand because it's been 20 years since then. But last I heard, like a few years back, they were still standing. So
Okay. So then you got to the end of your high school career and then some colleges start coming around. So like can you what was your little recruiting process like at like your junior senior because that's when the coaches start flooding.
yeah, junior year there was really nothing. I was getting letters, and they were like if you've ever been recruited by a college, there's a lot of generic letters that go out. Like they hear about you, they send you a letter, maybe assistant coach writes a little something on it and you get like a letter of interest, senior year, I got a lot more looks. Two colleges that were really high on me one was Marquette and the other one was UNC Wilmington. Both of those schools, they kind of offered me a full ride, but they didn't. The UNC Wilmington was like, all right, we have one scholarship left. It's yours if this 7-foot guy doesn't commit to us. Sure enough, the 7-foot guy says, yes, I want to go to UNC Wilmington. So now I don't have, I'm out with them. Marquette was very similar. They were like, we have one scholarship open if a guy transfers, which he said he's transferring out. Sure enough, long story short, the guy doesn't transfer.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Now I'm looking at there's a few teams in the MAC. I wanted to go to Northern Illinois, but they weren't really recruiting me. Toledo was recruiting me pretty heavily. I went and did a visit there. I liked it and I signed.
Gotcha.
So
okay, so you chose the Toledo, and that's the Rockets, right? That's the
yep, Rockets. Yeah.
Okay, that's sweet. And so when we first started talking, you mentioned that you went to a couple basketball camps. Like,
Yeah.
Can you tell me like when those were, like what age you were and
yeah. Well, when I was younger, I did the Bobby Knight camp. That started freshman year of high school.
Okay.
That was a team camp. So you went down there with your team, and there would be like we went down there with 2 teams. We had like 14 guys, 7 guys on each team, and you played like 6 or 7 games a day against other teams. So by the end of the night, you're wiped out, man. Like you couldn't do anything. Bobby Knight was I don't know if you ever watched the 30 for 30 on Bobby Knight.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's all true, man. Like the guy was legit scary. I didn't even know who Bobby Knight was really. Back then, like I was just kind of a little kid, freshman going in. I knew I knew who Bobby Knight was, but I didn't.
It was just this little famous college coach, like nothing.
Right.
He was gonna be a regular guy.
Right, man. And the guy came out and was like, it was like he was mad at the world, and he was like, "I mean, no messing around here. I just can't." It was like, holy cow, this guy's serious.
We said we're gonna get to work.
Yeah. And you knew it was serious because like all the staff members and everybody were like, they were taking him serious. Like nobody was laughing at it. He was serious. And the guy, like, he ran a show over there, man. He wasn't playing.
Okay. So Bobby Knight camp.
Yeah. And
that was probably a sweet time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was a real fun time. And we played against some really good competition. There were a lot of good kids there. And then later on in life, I had the privilege to work the Michael Jordan camp in Elmhurst. So I was what they would do is they would ask college kids from all over the nation to come and work and help the little kids, and I'd had my own team that I, would coach all day long. And then at the end of the night, Jordan would come and he would play with all the college kids. So that was fun because I got to play against Michael Jordan several times, got to guard him and stuff like that. So that was a really good time. And then at the end of the camp, you got $200 and anything you wanted autographed by Michael Jordan. So I got to work that 2 times in 1 year and then 1 time another year. So I got 3 autographs by Michael Jordan. So it was pretty sweet.
Okay. So you said you guarded Michael Jordan. And see, like one of my favorite basketball podcasts called The Knuckleheads. And I don't know if you know who Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles is, but they explain like how like they got started with the Jordan program. And then that led to them getting a lifetime deal with them just because they worked the camp. But so like, what was like just walking on the court, tying up the shoes, and all right, we're going against Michael. Like, what was that like? Like, how old was he? Like, first off.
Well, then I think he was the first time he was retired, and then the second time he was going back to play for the Wizards.
Okay.
So he was out of his prime. Not that he wasn't good.
Absolutely.
But he was out of his prime at the time. It was surreal, man. You're out there guarding Michael Jordan, arguably the best player in the world ever. You know what I mean? So when I guarded him, he didn't really do much. I gave him a little forearm. He knocked it down, and then he passed the ball, and then another kid would switch off and guard him. We kind of took turns guarding him, but I do have a good story though. There was
Okay.
the kid from Eastern there, Eastern Illinois, and he led the nation in scoring, but Eastern sucked at the time. Like they were terrible. He went down, shot the ball every time.
Somebody's got to score. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's why he was leading the nation in scoring. But the kid wasn't bad. So, and he had a mouth on him. He was talking stuff to Jordan. And there's a night where all the parents get to come. And all the parents were there, and the college kids are playing, and Michael's out on the court, and this kid's guarding Michael Jordan at the top of the key. So, and I can't remember the kid's name. I wish I could, but I can't. Anyways, this kid rips Michael Jordan at the top of the key in front of everybody. And you know how Michael is. He was a competitive guy. Like, he's not going to let you just rip him.
At his camp, yeah.
At his camp in front of all the parents, So this kid rips Jordan. Jordan turns off and takes off. He's flying. He's going as fast as he can, trying to get this kid or block him or whatever. Jordan goes up for the block. This kid goes up. Here comes Jordan, and he dunks on Jordan in front of everybody. The whole crowd was like, oh. And Jordan wanted a piece of that kid for the next 2 weeks. He couldn't handle it. Like, he was like, where's he at? I want to go one-on-one with him right now. That's all he was saying. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine dunking on Jordan though, like that in front of everybody? Like,
yeah.
And you got
And
something to say for the rest of your life. You're telling your grandkids that when they're
absolutely. And I would tell them, I'm like, sorry, Mike, like, we don't even need to play. To me, we don't even need to play no more. But I'm sure Mike wasn't having it. No, like, you're getting on this court.
He was not having it.
Yeah. Wow. So that's really cool. I'm really glad you told me that story, because like I never personally like always heard about those camps. So like you're like the first person I got an inside story. So that was sweet to me.
Yeah.
But to go back into it. So did you think your game changed when you went from high school to college? Because for me as a rugby player, like I lost my senior year of high school. So when I first got here, it took me a little adjustment. So like right now, my freshman year of college is really my senior year because I missed all those games. I missed all that. So did you think your team changed? Because you got a whole new level now, and you get there first day of campus, you're looking, all right, this is who we got on the team. Like, what are you thinking?
Oh man, it had to change. Like, I went in, I was 6 foot at the time. I was 155. And I'm going against guys that were 22 years old, men that were like 220 pounds that can, jump out the gym just like me. My game had to change. They were faster, stronger, better shooters than me. Like, and I didn't realize it. Like, when you're in high school, when I was in high school, I looked at, you would watch March Madness and you'd be like, I'm just as good as those kids, and you're not. Like, you see it on TV, but then when you play like Division I kids in real life, like, it's a big difference. They're men out there. They're fast, they're strong. It's definitely a big difference. And my game had to change. Yeah.
Okay. So you said you did 2 years at the University of Toledo. So
Right.
During those 2 years, like what were like some of like the highlights and like when you like your favorite moments there, like times that you enjoyed?
My freshman year, we started off like, I think we were 13-0. Like, we won every game, and we went up against Ohio State at home and beat them.
Wow.
So we were like, holy cow, this is, we're starting off, we're going to the tournament. You know what I mean? We're 13-0 right now, and we just beat Ohio State. That was fun, to start off like that. I wasn't playing much, I was a freshman. They had a lot of seniors on the team that were really good. Plus, we're 13-0, so obviously we're good. So it was hard for me to deal with that, because coming from high school where you played every game and you're the superstar on the team, and then you go from not playing ever, and you're one of the worst players on the team. But it got better my sophomore year. I started like 6 games. The college is Division I is a little bit tricky. There's a lot of politics involved, which from the outside looking in, you have nothing, you don't know nothing about, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes with Division I.
Absolutely, because especially you're a guy coming off the bench, so you come in right away you gotta make an impact. It's not like if you're starting and you start off slow, usually you're gonna get hot at the end of the game. But if you're a role player, like you gotta make the most out of all those minutes. So it's tough sometimes because your shot not always gonna fall right away. Sometimes it takes a while getting a little groove. So like I understand what you're saying. Like that's like in any sport. It takes a coming off the bench that's a that's a job. Like look at Lou Williams. He made a career out of that. But at first, I bet he struggled, but now he's one of the best six men of all time. But
Yeah.
so 2 years at Toledo, and then ended up transferring to Lewis University. And
Yeah, things didn't work out at Toledo. I mean, I'm not going to get into all that. But then I went to Lewis. The only reason I went to Lewis was when I was in high school. I used to go to the junior college nearby. I knew the coach, and I would play with the junior college kids. And the coach from Lewis came in a couple times to recruit some of those kids, and I saw him there, and I'm like, when I was in high school, I was better than those junior college kids. I'm like, I can go and play for him. Like I knew that going into it. So I'm like, Dad, call up Lewis University, tell him I'm interested, get me a tryout. I had the coach call for me to. I had a tryout, and they're like, all right, you want to come here? You got a full ride. So that's what I did. I ended up going to Lewis.
just like that.
Yep.
Okay. So you told me you guys had a really good team. You guys went all the way to the Sweet 16. So like, can you go a little bit like go into on that team and a little bit about that season for me?
Well, we had a really good team, man. We had two bigs that were really good. We had a great point guard. I played the two, and we had a couple guys that played, the three that were really good. We tied the all-time record at Lewis. We were 25-5 by the end of the season, and we almost beat it. We had a game. It was actually my roommate at Toledo. He ended up transferring too, and he went to another Division II. I think it was Hillsdale or something like that. So I'm playing against this kid, and it's down to the wire. There's like 10 seconds left. We're up 1. My best friend on the team is guarding my old roommate, right?
Mm-hmm.
My old roommate has a ball. He's up at the top of key, doing his thing. He drives, does like this shake and bake, and does a turnaround fadeaway. My guy fouls him. Like I see it. He grabbed him and hacked him. My old roommate throws it up, banks it in, buzzer goes off. That game right there could have been, we should have won that game. I mean, we won, they won fair and square. It was off a bank. The guy fouled them and everything, but we should have had the best record ever at Lewis. But because of that game, we tied for the best record ever.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
it was a good season. At the end of the year, we played really, really tough against some big teams, and we lost to Kentucky Wesleyan, who was in our conference, and they actually won the national championship. And we only lost to them by a couple of points. Then they later got that, I guess the word is rescinded because they were cheating. So long story short, we lost to the team that was cheating, but It is what it is.
And that was your team senior year or your junior year?
Yeah, that was my senior year.
Senior year? Okay.
Yeah, junior year we weren't as good, but we recruited a couple Division I kids for my senior year, and we ended up being really good.
Gotcha. Okay. So finished out at Lewis strong. Had a good senior season, ended up graduating. So now like that you've been away from basketball, like do you still watch the NBA a little bit?
Dude, the NBA is not my favorite thing to watch. I'll just be dead honest with you.
Absolutely. I got people, I have this argument every day.
Oh man, sometimes I can't stand it. Like they're not playing hard. They're out there. Some of them are out there flopping. Like when I watch LeBron James, sometimes I'll see him flop. I'm like, all right, I got to turn this off. Like I can't handle it. Like what are you out there flopping for? Like Jordan never flopped in his life, but you're out there flopping, trying to get a foul. It's so fake. Like, please play hard. You know what I mean? Like, you can see it in college. Like, you just watch March Madness. I'm sure you, right? Those guys are playing with everything they have, their heart. Like, because they know if they lose, they're out. They're playing with everything. Like, that's basketball to me. Like, they're playing hard. They want to win. It doesn't matter how much money they're going to make. with the pros, you don't see that all the time, and it's frustrating, especially if you played ball all your life. Like you can tell, like this guy ain't out there playing hard. He getting paid
Absolutely.
for it.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, I can't watch every game because, like, to me, like, I really just watch like all the young guards. I like that's my thing. Like, I watch like the Jaws, the Donovan Mitchells, the Devin Bookers, like guys like that. Like those, like I could sit there and watch the game. Like last season and like this season, the Grizzlies, like with John Morant, like the way he plays, like that's must watch TV. He had the Grizzlies in the 8 seed, like the way like he can make everybody better. Like to me, like
Yeah.
I'm like, I could watch that. But like then I flip on another game, like it's not as exciting as like you said, a March Madness college basketball.
Yeah. And you look back, like I look back at the Jordan era when, and I'm sure you watched some of these 30 for 30s when, or did you, I don't know if you watched,
Yeah, I'm a big 30 for 30 guy. So
yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of those like the Bulls versus the Pistons, the Bulls versus, LA and the Celtics, like those guys played hard, man. They wanted to win. They were going to win at all costs. Like if they had to hack somebody real hard, that's what they did. And it wasn't a flagrant foul. It's just like this is basketball. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And that's what I remember, and that's what I loved about the NBA. All these protections for the players now, and I understand it. Like they need to be protected, but it's just not as fun for me to watch.
absolutely. All right. So now we're gonna move from the basketball segment. And now
Put you down, you know what you got to do?
I don't want to know what you got to do.
Just keep swimming.
and now Sam, now we're gonna move into the big topic of the day. We're gonna go into carp fishing. And Sam, when I first heard about it, I really didn't know too much. I obviously heard of a carp fish before, but I didn't know how big of a thing it was and what's all about. So for the people at home, explain them a little bit. What's it about and like what got you into carp fish?
Okay. So basically, all right, if you live in America and you fish, most people, all the money, everything is geared towards bass fishing.
Absolutely.
But overseas, every country overseas, it's the opposite. It's carp fishing. So like, and people in the US don't know anything about that, but you go into like a Bass Pro over there, or what, it's not a Bass Pro, but like a tackle shop over there, you can't find a bass lure. It's all carp fishing stuff. Like that's how serious it is over there. It's a multi-million-dollar, thing over there. So in the United States, it's bass fishing, but it's growing. I mean, carp fishing is growing, and you can't get it confused with the invasive species, which is Asian carp. The Asian carp is an invasive species that it's taken over. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the regular common carp. That is not an invasive species. That's pretty much in every lake, river, pond in America. They're probably in there.
Gotcha.
So, and then you asked the question, how did I get into it, right? So when I was younger, we would go on a trip every year, like one trip a year, maybe two, but one of them for sure would be to a lake up in Wisconsin, because Rockford's not too far from the border of Wisconsin, and there's tons of lakes up there. So my dad would take us on like a trip for a week long, and he liked to do a lot of like pan fishing, crappie, bluegill, whatever, and I would go out on the boat with them, and they'd be out there for hours, and I you're a little kid, I couldn't handle that, being out there for hours. I'd be like, take me back. So eventually I just started staying on the dock, you know what I mean, and just fishing for a little bluegill and whatever off the dock. One time I was using corn, a little bit of corn on the hook, and I was trying to catch these bluegill, and you could see the bluegill come up. That's what like hooked me. I'm like, okay, I can see them, they're gonna go grab it, And I was, you're a little kid, you're being messy. There's corn all out on the bottom of the lake, and you can see it. And all of a sudden I saw this huge fish come up and start eating the corn. My heart started pounding. I'm like, oh my God. So I put more corn on the hook, and I'm like, I'm going to catch this big fish. And I threw the hook and I let it sink down to the bottom. Sure enough, that fish came over and grabbed that hook with all the corn on it. I set the hook, and I had like this little tiny ultralight pole, and I'm fighting this thing, and I couldn't get it in because the pole was so small and the line was so light. My grandpa came down and helped me out, but I was hooked from there. Like I always wanted to catch carp after that because it was such a great fight and such a big fish. It was probably at the time, it was probably like a 9-pound carp, which to me nowadays is nothing. It's a little fish, but back then, you're a little kid, it was like, holy cow.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like the reel of a carfish, like that's what really does it for you. Like to reel it in, like you think that's a real cool thing. Like, does it usually take a little minute to bring those carfish in?
Oh, yeah. I mean, carp are really strange, man, because they have like different personalities. Like when you bring them in, like some of them will fight so hard, like a little tiny one, like only this big, will fight forever. And then you'll get like a real big one and it may fight for a minute and then you just drag it in and it's like, you're huge. Why aren't you fighting? But most of the time, the bigger they are, the harder to fight. And, I caught one, my personal best is 50 pounds. It's just over 50 pounds. And that thing fought for like 20 minutes. I had a 15-20 minute fight,
Wow.
And you got to play them right because they're a heavy fish. Like I've had them bend the hooks out, when you're fighting them. If you fight them too hard, they'll bend the hook and then they'll get off or whatever. So you got to play them right. If you play them right, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes, some of the bigger ones, and it's really fun.
Gotcha. Okay. So for you, car fishing is it, or like is that the only fishing you enjoy?
No. I mean, I grew up bass fishing and stuff like that. That's walleye, northern. I've been on trips to Canada where they fly you in and land on water and drop you off, and then they come back in 3 days. Thinking about that now, I'm like, how dangerous was that? Because there was no cell phones back then or nothing. Like they dropped you off on a lake and left you, and there's no communication.
And then there's a regroup zone or something. Like, we're gonna meet here.
No,
A rekindle.
there was nothing, man. They were like, all right, we'll be back Wednesday, and I'm like,
Y'all better be back Wednesday.
You didn't think about it back then, but that was dangerous now. When you think about it, but yeah, I love all kinds of fishing. I did a trip a few years back up in Canada. I went for the white sturgeon, and that's similar to a carp, but it's gigantic. The one I caught was 7 feet and about 150 pounds. Now that fight was unbelievable. It took me about 20 minutes, but it was like 20 minutes of lifting weights because the thing was pulling down so hard on the pole, like you're flexing your arms, your back hurt. I was shaking by the time I was done, but I got it in. It was really cool.
Gotcha. So I'm out here in Iowa, and it's close to Minnesota, and a lot of people do ice fishing. Have you have any experience with that? Some ice fishing?
I did that several times as a child with my dad, but I'm not a big fan of the cold, man. So I don't do a lot of ice fishing.
Absolutely, completely understandable. All right, so Sam, if I wanted to start carp fishing, where would I start, and what gear what should I get or like look at?
Yeah. That's a lot of people ask me that, like, and I say just keep it basic, man. I mean, basically for food to attract the carp like food, So like I use a lot of sweet corn, like out of the can. You can just go to a regular grocery store, get a can of sweet corn. It has a pop lid on it. I mean, you're in already, or white bread, like a soft white bread that you can, squeeze real easy. Put that on the hook. They love that as well. I mean, and you can get into so much more detail than that and different types of baits and stuff like that. But if you're just beginning, those two right there are so basic. You can get them at any convenience store. Any rod and reel will work, man. Really. I mean, if you got a bass rod and want to use that, you can use that. Now I use bigger stuff. I use bigger equipment and stuff like that, but you don't have to, so you just keep it easy, simple. A regular hook with some corn on it, or a regular hook with some bread on it, and you can go out and give it a try.
So the stuff like that you're using, the equipment you're using, you're trying to, like you said, the biggest was 56.
50.
So like those are like that size, like the carp usually deal with on a day-to-day basis, or at least you're trying to look for.
No, I mean, a 50 pounder is like super, super rare. Like for most people in their lifetime, they try to catch a 40 pounder. I just so happen to be on a lake that produces some really big fish, which I don't tell nobody about which lake it is, but yeah, no, you're not dealing with a 50 pounder day to day. Like for me, I catch a lot of 30s, a lot of 20 pounders. That's the day to day type fish. But if you never caught a 20-pound fish, you're in for a fight, man. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. If anybody's ever thinking about getting into something or with fishing and stuff like that, I'd always encourage them to try that. And it's pretty simple too. Like if you have like a pond or a lake by where you live, what I would suggest you do is take a couple cans of sweet corn, go out the day before you're going to go or 2 days before, like, and throw out corn in the area wherever you're going to fish. And what that'll do is draw the fish in. They'll come in and they'll be like, oh, there's a bunch of food here.
Gotcha.
Then when you come back, you put, little corn on the hook, throw that out, and then throw a handful all around it. So they're like, oh, here we are again. There's more food. There's more food. Then they grab your hook, and now you got them.
Gotcha. All right, a little more deeper question. So to me, I have like a dream place where I would play basketball. So like, do you have any like a dream adventure or like ideal spot like that that you think carp fishing would take you, or like you could see yourself like traveling like out the country or something?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. Overseas, they have these things called payday lakes where you go and you pay money to fish in like a little lake that somebody's made.
Okay.
And what they do over there is
Dock Lake.
yeah, and they stock it with carp, and then they feed the carp a lot. So they pull carp out of there that are 80 and 90 pounds. So I mean, to me, that's kind of not as sporty as I like. I like regular, free fighting fish. You know what I mean? But maybe I would like to try that one day. There's a couple places in the United States that I'd like to try that I haven't been to, but I don't know about a dream place. Like I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, I threw a little tough question out there.
Yeah, you got me on that one.
Absolutely. So you've been taking some videos and doing some like like instructional carp fishing videos. So like, what do you plan on doing with your next step? Like a YouTube channel, or like where do you want to go with your carp fishing?
I don't know, man. I just recently in the last month put out 2 more videos. I was carp fishing on Lake Michigan and had a couple really good sessions. One I was there 3 hours, caught like 17 carp. I videoed it and put it out on YouTube. I don't really here's my problem is I'm older and I don't know like how to promote a channel, a YouTube channel and stuff like that. But I mean, I made the video in iMovie and posted it on YouTube. So I mean, I know a little bit, but how to promote myself, I don't really know how to do that as well. So I don't know. I just want to create more videos and put them out there just so people can see like this is what carp fishing is all about.
Absolutely. And like with that, if you have your YouTube channel, like if like you invest, like even it could be your iPhone too, like a clean camera, but like the journey to like where you're going, and like so like even before, like when you're in the car traveling there and just talking about it, if you film that and then you go out to the lake and just the camera's on you talking, like, and then you're just waiting, like I feel like the fishing fans, because there's a lot of fishing fans on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Like they would definitely gravitate toward it. And like to like the promotion thing, it's really just like consistent with the videos. Like that's what I try to do. Like I try to like stay posting videos. It's hard sometimes, but I could just tell in this conversation you're very knowledgeable on this topic. And nowadays, like I tell this to my mom all the time. Nowadays, like with the opportunity with social media, you have a chance to be a millionaire just off yourself and your ideas and just like showing yourself. So if you think you can do it,
there are some people out there that have made it big, man. I mean, you look at the Logan Paul and Jake Paul and some other people that have really just off a YouTube channel, they're doing big things now. You know what I mean?
absolutely. And one small opportunity brings you into the next one. So,
Yes, sir.
but I appreciate you coming on to GEP Talk. I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy this episode. If you have any carp fishing questions, please get the comment, and we'll leave Sam's contact information so they can get a hold of you, ask some questions. And do you
Sure.
have anything else that you would like to say before we get out of here?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on here. I think we had a great conversation, and like you said, anybody has any questions about carp fishing or, where to go or how to do it, I'll give you my Instagram stuff. They can reach me there. So.
Absolutely. This was episode 7 of GEP Talk. The one and only Sam Bacino was in the building. And I hope you guys stay tuned. We got an NBA episode coming out soon. All right, that'll be it. Thank you.